Hello, Steve Arts 89. I've had the worst customer service in my life, and I just need to vent about it, and I need to put it out there to warn other people not to use this service. Basically, I was having problems with Australia Post. They just won't deliver the item to the address that I paid to have it delivered to. There's no reason why they can't. There's nothing stopping them, but they just won't do it. And I had to get a third party to pick up the item for me and deliver it to the address because Australia Post just won't do it. No actual reason. They just won't do it. They don't see it as their job to deliver the parcels to the address that it was paid to be delivered to. They think it's just their job to keep stuff at the post office and make customers go in to get the items. So that's apparently what their model is now. Just, you just come to the post office and get your items. Like, we don't actually deliver to addresses anymore, because it's just easier to make you do the work, even though you paid someone else to do it. So I tried to contact this service called Sherpa, because that's the only thing in the area that seems to be able to do what I need. So I called them up, and the first lady basically says, yes, it's all fine. You can make a booking. We can do that. It's all great. So I'm like, great. I go to make the booking, and there's some issues. I call back, and she's like, actually, no, you can't make a booking. You can make a booking, but it won't go up until that time. So you can't make a booking and then have someone accept it, and okay, at 5 o'clock tomorrow, someone's going to do this for me. You can put it up live, and if you're lucky, someone will accept it real time, and you won't know till then if you're actually going to get the job done. So I'm like, great. So I tried to make an appointment in the morning for that time for it to go up, but I couldn't do it. Every time I tried, it would revert back to the current time. It would only allow me to open a window at that time, not make a booking to be put up at a later time. So I went to bed, I got up and tried to do it again. And I'd been talking to Australia Post again, trying to get them to get the post office to fulfill the order, but they wouldn't do it. And then the Australia Post started to agree with the post office and say, oh, they don't. They tried to justify them not doing it. I'm like, this is insane. Eventually, I gave up on them, and this time it was about 4:30, and I'm like, I've only got like half an hour to put this order in, this booking in, and see if someone in the area can do it. Because if there's no one in the immediate area, they won't be able to do it. No one's going to accept the order, the booking, if they can't actually do it, because they've only got like 20 minutes to do it. So the booking went up at 4:38, so they had 22 minutes to do it. So the only way someone could do it is if they were literally outside the post office or on the street or something, like 5 minutes away or something. And I thought, well, maybe someone will be there and I won't have to do this all again tomorrow. And someone accepted the booking. I'm like, yes. I said, so are you outside the post office? And he said, no, I'm in Bell Street. And I said, well, how are you going to be there by 5 o'clock? And then he didn't say anything. And then I got a photo from outside the post office around 5, and I said, did you go in? He said, no. And I said, well, why aren't you going in? And then he messaged back, oh, they're closed. I'm like, I don't understand. Why would you accept a booking that had to be picked up by 5 o'clock if you weren't in the area? And then when you get there around 5, why didn't you actually try to go in? Because he just stood out the front and took a photo to let me know he was there. I'm like, what? I don't understand. And how they work is you pay for them to create a booking, and then the driver picks it up and delivers it. And if the driver can't fulfill it, they cancel it. They lose the money. Basically, you get a refund. If you cancel it, they give you a partial refund, and you keep basically what is a cancellation fee. So I got charged a cancellation fee when I didn't cancel, and his excuse was, well, I couldn't pick it up because the building was closed. I didn't have access. And I said, man, obviously, they were supposed to do it by 5. So if they couldn't do it by 5, they shouldn't have accepted it, and just left it there. And then no one would have fulfilled the order, accepted the order, and I would have had to do it again tomorrow. Maybe it would have sat there until the next day. I don't know. I think I would have had to put it in again. So I call up to complain, and I'm like, because I want a full refund, because they basically took my money and didn't provide the service. Because the service, and I'll get into that later, because I was actually more right than I knew. Eventually I spoke to someone in customer service, and what they alerted me to was the fact there was no instructions in the booking. And I said, but I put the instructions in the booking. I entered them and sent them through. Why weren't they in the booking? And they blamed me at first, said, well, you didn't do it. I said, I did do it. I said, well, they're not there. And I'm like, yeah, that's the problem. I put the information in the form, and I pressed submit, but apparently it didn't all go through. So why did that happen? And they just wanted to blame me at first. Eventually, they said, oh, well, you should have known it didn't go through. I'm like, how would I know it didn't go through? So they're arguing things like that with me. Just insanity. So I'm supposed to know what the driver gets, I'm supposed to know that there's a problem and fix it from my side. I don't run the website. I can't alter the booking. I can't do anything like that. But they'll blame me saying, you should have done that. It was insanity. And eventually I argued, and there's so many that these people seem to be trained, and it's a Philippine call center. And I tried to explain to them, look, it doesn't matter where you are. The business is operating in Australia, and we have laws that protect customers. So you can't treat me like this. You can't do this. Even if you're over there, you're operating here. And they just ignored me. They lied to me. They tried to obstruct me. They just tried to gaslight me. They would just say things weren't what they were. I'd say, the booking wouldn't allow me to make a booking. It would just revert back. And they said, no, it doesn't do that. And I said, it did do that. It's doing it now. And they said, it doesn't do that. They were just insane. They just deny reality and deny what was happening instead of going, well, it shouldn't do that. We'd better look into why it's not doing that. That's what a sane customer service person would do. They maybe wouldn't take responsibility and say it's our fault, but they'd say, we'll look into why that didn't happen. Just arguing with me, obstructing me, gaslighting me just for hours. I just kept calling back. Every person I spoke to pretty much did the same thing. And eventually, I got a manager to call me back. So I said, I want to speak to a manager. You're not resolving this problem, customer service. I'm not happy with the customer service. I want to speak to a manager. Escalate the call. You have to escalate the call, basically. And they said, okay, there's no one who can pick it up now. I spoke to one lady who was just dismissed the call and hung up on me. And then, they didn't address the issue or talk to me or anything. They just hung up and said, look, we're not going to deal with this, basically. Just, stop calling. There's no problem. Nothing went wrong. So I said, I need to speak to a manager. And they said, we'll arrange a call back. So I got a call back from this manager, and my battery died on my phone after about a minute of talking to them. So they did initiate a call back, but they didn't, finish the call. They didn't complete it. They didn't resolve anything. We didn't discuss anything. And I called back and said, look, I need to speak to the manager again. My phone died. She did call back, but I didn't actually get to speak to her. And they just wouldn't do it. They wouldn't put me through. And then after an hour or so of arguing again, they said, oh, she's left for the day. I said, well, can you arrange a call back for the next day? And they said they'd do it. But I just kept arguing with them about other things. And eventually at the end of the night, one of them actually said, okay, you're right. We're supposed to put the information you put in the form. Once you press submit, your responsibility is over. We're supposed to put that information in the booking. They agreed. That's what you're supposed to do. And if it's not in the booking and it doesn't go to the driver, that's their fault or the fault of the website. It's not my fault, not my responsibility. And they said they'd lodge an investigation to work out what went wrong. And I'm like, wow. It took 4 hours arguing with about 8 different people, but they're actually doing something about this issue. And there was multiple issues because there were 2 or 3 things that didn't work. There was a point where my phone number wouldn't be accepted, even though it was the correct phone number I'd been using a couple of times, and tried 3 times, and eventually it went through. But that cost me 10 minutes. I'm like, there's something wrong with this application system. There's something wrong. And I sort of, that was sort of the end of the shift, and I thought, fine. So I called back the next day, went online the next day to actually set up a booking for that day. And I was going to create a window between 3 and 5 to fulfill the order. And when I tried, it said my account was disabled. And I called them up and I said, why is my account disabled? Is this because I complained? Are you that petty that you are not letting me use the service? Because they knew that I needed to use the service to complete the order today because it wasn't completed yesterday. And they said, oh, well, when you have an account being investigated, it can't be used. I said, did you know that? And I had to ask them 5 times to get an answer, which was kind of normal, actually. And they just leave you in silence for 20, 30 seconds before speaking. And she said, yes, I knew that. I said, so the other people in customer service could know that as well. She said, well, yeah. I said, okay, so it looks like you didn't actually accept there was a problem. You didn't want to help me. That person just lodged an investigation because they knew it would stop me using the service the next day to fulfill the order. That's what you've done. So I thought I'd achieved something. I achieved nothing. And then the worst part was they said to me that we're not going to put you through to a manager because you've already spoken to a manager, and we've addressed all your issues and there's just nothing to talk about. I said, I never spoke to a manager. One initiated a call and the call failed and nothing was discussed. And they just wouldn't put me through. And one of the other people eventually told me, that person is not a manager. That person's not a manager. They're just one of us. They're a customer service person. They're just one of our co-workers. So I realized, so they didn't escalate the call to management. They've been lying the whole time. They wanted to keep this call in their group so I couldn't complain about how they were treating me and what happened. So I called up again and spoke to one of the other guys, because this is a girl who'd said this. And I said, this is what she told me. Is that true? Is that person customer service or are they management? And he said, no, the management, she's lying. I'm like, why would she lie to me about you? Why would she lie to me about... I appreciate that she told me the truth and what you guys were doing, because that's what she should have done. And that's what she should have told management. That's what happened. She should have been contacting them and saying something's wrong with what's happening with this customer and how they're treating them. And he said, no, she's lying. I said, so one of you is lying about the other person, and like, how am I, the customer, supposed to know who's lying to me and work all this out? It's just insanity. So that was the last interaction I had. I kept calling and they just kept hanging up on me or not answering or just leaving it silent for like 30 seconds or 40 seconds, then the phone would just hang up. And I'm like, you know what? Your bosses are going to see this. All this is being recorded. You can't get away with this. And I just had to leave it at that.